It's a problem many people face on a daily basis, being judged, badly treated, or even worse, just because of the color of their skin. There are laws against racism and xenophobia, but changing attitudes is not so easy.
It's so generally accepted that racism exists, but there's no real urgency, you know, or need to tackle it. It's not really regarded as a serious problem.
Campaigners say it's not enough to have laws, they must be enforced, and authorities must publicly renounce abuse in all its forms. One place shocked into action was the Belgian port city of Antwerp, known for its diamond industry and home to large ethnic communities. A teenage far-right sympathiser was jailed for murder with racist intent after a shooting rampage in 2006. A pregnant woman from Mali and a 2-year-old girl were killed, and a Turkish woman was seriously wounded. People took to the streets to condemn racism. But despite the soul-searching, some say little progress has been made since. Recently, anti-discrimination complaints were made to the authorities in a controversy over police policy, including checks on the drivers of expensive vehicles. Mohamed, who's of Moroccan descent, is one of the complainants.
As citizens, especially as citizens of migrant descent, we should demand nothing less than our full rights and trying to really break in the debate and have a voice there. I really just point out to the urgency of it, because racism is, to some maybe who haven't been discriminated against, it's maybe a bit abstract, but yeah, I can assure you, for a lot of people, you know, it really changes lives.
Mohamed says without what he calls a Marshall Plan, he's not optimistic things will change anytime soon. He says there's complacent acceptance of the fact that ethnic minorities are discriminated against when it comes to housing, education and employment. Action groups say raising public awareness is crucial, but also victims should not let racism go unchallenged.
Speak up about the problems, even if there's no immediate solution. It helps to assess what's going on. And measuring what's going on, that helps us work out the scale of the phenomenon, and that means wage a battle against it. And I think it's the responsibility of the authorities and politicians of all persuasions in Europe to meet their responsibilities and help us carry out this work, because it's not only a job for civil society, it's a job we should do together.
Other campaigners say the challenge is how to harness the public outrage over extreme cases of racism and use that to foster change in the general day-to-day attitudes towards ethnic communities. Many here in Antwerp have made their feelings known. Tens of thousands of signs like this one have gone up right across the city. They say street without racism and street without hate. Many local schools have also declared themselves racism-free zones. The pressure is on governments everywhere to adhere to European rules on racism and xenophobia. EU officials are currently assessing compliance in all member states. And in these tough economic times, one particular concern is how to tackle the rise of hate speech.
When I look back at the 90s, you had a racist discourse, you know, which was quite easy, you know, to notice. You know, it was because it had racialized arguments. You know, it was about the blacks, it was about the Arabs. But nowadays, you know, it has become much more culturalized. So people are saying no, I don't have anything against Arabs or blacks, but it's just their culture. And that, in some ways, is more acceptable. You know, it's like you're just doing some critique of culture. Which actually it isn't, because in essence it leads to the same things, to the same outcome, which is exclusion of people.
Brutal and outright racism, as well as aggression, doesn't really come up a lot. Of course there are isolated cases, but it's not the real trend. There's a problem of institutional racism, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. When there's a problem in society, I think the state must act. It must act in the television studios when there's a discourse that calls for stigmatization, or a certain kind of segregation, whatever the form, or a certain perception of others.
A survey of Europeans last year found that discrimination is still considered to be widespread, with the majority saying it's mostly on the grounds of ethnic origin. It's a long battle, but campaigners say they must hold on to the hope that little by little things can improve.